Hello, you're listening to Storytelling Saga, the podcast that shares stories. I'm your host, Allie, and this week I'm discussing Rugrats in Paris, the movie, which was released in theaters on November 17th, 2000. This is the second theatrical film for Rugrats. The first, of course, is the Rugrats movie, which was released in 1998. I discussed that movie in 2018 for its 20th anniversary. And just like with that movie, I remember the marketing for this one. I remember the promotions for it. I remember the hype for it. I remember distinctly there was a contest related to this one where the winner got to do a voice for the movie. And the winner of that contest was a girl named Shannon Stevens. And she did a quick voiceover for a preschool kid that was in daycare with Kimmy when Kimmy's drawing on the chalkboard, and then the kids are guessing what she's drawing, and then the one kid says it's Reptar, and then Kimmy says right, and then the kid says no, I mean it's really Reptar. So that's really cool that she got to do that. I remember being jealous though. I was like, oh my god, that would have been so amazing, but I didn't know how to enter the contest, so what the heck. So I didn't know how to do it, but that's funny. So that's just really, really cool. And I remember going to see this in theaters and just loving it. And of course, I talked about Rugrats, the series, for the 50th episode of this podcast. And as you know, which I've said, of course, that Rugrats is my all-time favorite childhood cartoon. And in particular, Tommy Pickles is my all-time favorite cartoon character, honestly. With this movie, all the emotional stuff is so beautiful, still makes me teary-eyed 20 years later. And this, of course, ushered in a new era of Rugrats, where then we got two new characters added to the series, Kira and her daughter, Kimmy. That's when the series got a whole new theme song, and I remember the first episode after this movie was in January of 2001. The episode was called Finsterella, and they just carried over a few things, like they mentioned Coco, and they carried over the fact that Chucky could speak now, was still just saying no, his first word, no, to the adults, which that's so funny. Because that really was a big deal too. I kind of forgot about that, because despite the big deal of adding new characters to the Rugrats universe, because of course with the first film we have Dill, and then with this one we have Kimmy and Kira. And also another underrated character, I would say, is Lulu, who was introduced in the special leading up to this movie, which was a 3-part special called Acorn Nuts and Diaper Butts, when Lulu is Grandpa Lou's nurse and they fall in love, and it's so cute. And so then at the start of this movie, it's their wedding, and I just love the moment, like with them dancing, like they're so lively and energetic, they're amazing, they're perfect for each other. And I love the moment though when Grandpa's talking to Drew and Stu, and then they're saying she's perfect for you, Pop, like she's great, and then he says yeah, she's a keeper, and then he says of course no one could replace your mother, like oh, that's so cute. And with this film, how it's more so Chucky's film in that it's his journey, he wants a mommy, and it's just so heartbreaking and touching. And with the opening, how it's a parody of The Godfather with Angelica as the Bob father, it's so funny, all of the, you know, iconic things that they're parodying, like the Kiss My Ring, and the thing with the horse head, and her with the whole monologue, oh, you come to this the day of the wedding, like doing the accent, so funny, goodness. And with Chucky, how he wants a mommy, and of course that scene when all the moms are dancing with their kids, and then Chucky's just on the sidelines watching, and it's so heartbreaking and devastating. And then Chaz just walks up to him saying, come on little fella, let's go home. And that song is so beautiful too, called When You Love, sung by Sinead O'Connor. I didn't realize that. And then when they're looking through old things with Chucky's mom, and her name was Melinda, I had forgotten about that too. And then like he gives him the bear she had made, Wawa. It's so cute. It's like, you know, Chucky, your mom loved us both so much, like aw. So poor Chucky, how he just feels like he really is feeling that emptiness in this movie. Because in the show, it's just like Chaz and Chucky are a duo, and, you know, there's that whole special Mother's Day, which is so touching too, when explaining about how his mom had passed and everything. But with this movie, it's just he has that hole in his heart, and he wants a mommy, and poor Chucky. And then, of course, like the whole thing that they go to Paris in the first place because Stu, always Stu, the great inventor with his invention that just breaks down the robot Reptar. So Reptar again playing a pivotal role in a Rugrats movie, because in the first one it was with the Reptar wagon, so in this one it's that giant robotic Reptar and they have to fly out to Paris. But it's, with like Euro Reptar land. And of course our villain in this movie, Coco LaBouche, who is voiced by Susan Sarandon, so random, and then her accomplice, Jean-Claude. And it's just so weird because like she's got the French accent and there's like bits of humor with speaking in French, like I remember distinctly this in the trailers too, with Angelica saying, "You babies are as dumb in France as you are in America," and then Dill wets himself and he says, "Oui, oui," and then Angelica says, "Oh, except him, he's speaking French already," like so dumb. And I also remember, on a side note, in the trailers, I remember the line with Phil saying, "Somebody got up on the wrong side of the bread," like, what a line. And I will say, though, with Phil and Leo, they're like extra gross in this movie, because I did say, I think with Rugrats, the first movie, that they were great in that movie. They were kind of like the MVPs. They were just so funny. They were just great. But in this one, they're just kind of very gross. The stuff with the barf bag and like with the goo bubbles and just nasty, goodness. And really with the Rugrats, like with the babies in this movie, it's really just, like I said, it's Chucky's film. So with Tommy, he doesn't have that much of a role in this film, to be honest. But I like that he's just the supportive best friend. That's really cute. And then just Phil and Lil are just kind of there being gross. And Angelica, though, is great in this movie. I would say she's the MVP of this movie. And even with Kimmy, how she's just kind of, like, we just are introduced to Kimmy. And then, like, what Chucky says, "Oh, no, another Tommy." Like, this is another fun, adventurous one added to their group. And she just gets along with them immediately, though. Like, it's just so cute. And also we're introduced to Fifi, Spike's new love. And I totally forgot in the series, too, that they have puppies. You remember Spiffy? I totally forgot about that character, that, like, little puppy. Whatever. So anyway, so with them being in France, in Paris, so like they all fly out there because Stu has to fix the robot that just breaks down, the head falls off, whatever, for their show. And it's kind of unclear to me what Coco LaBouche's profession is. She's just like a businesswoman, and her boss is Mr. Yamaguchi, who we always hear about in the series because Charlotte is always talking to him. Like, "Oh, get like me on the phone with Mr. Yamaguchi." Like, she's always talking about him. So that's weird that they didn't have any interaction at all or anything. But, and she's always talking to Jonathan. But anyway, so it's so bizarre that it's like, oh, this is like, they make all the references to Japan and Tokyo, and then it's like, why didn't they just make this movie Rugrats in Tokyo? I genuinely don't understand that. It just makes no sense to me, like, in hindsight now. Just like the French speaking, because even Kira is Japanese, just makes no sense. Like, why wasn't it just Rugrats in Tokyo? I don't get it at all. But the only thing is that, like, with Rugrats in Paris, they have the A as the Eiffel Tower, so that's why I don't understand. Whatever, it's just one of those things that, just kind of bugs me now for some reason, but it's alright. So then, of course, the whole plot with Coco, how when she's on the phone then with Mr. Yamaguchi, and then he says, well, you need to know what's more important in life. When she's up for a promotion, but then he's saying that that's not what's important, though, that, having a family. And then she just lies about, oh, I'm engaged to a guy who has a son. And then, of course, Angelica overhears it. So with her manipulative nature to say, like, oh, I know a guy you can marry, a guy who has a kid, like Mr. Chucky's dad, and then, of course, she wants to ride she wants her own float with matching ponies, and goodness. And what's weird to me about Coco's design, her outfit? Why does she have a bunch of clocks? Like, she has 2 watches on, she has clocks on her shoes, and she has clock earrings. Makes no sense to me at all. But then we just see how she's manipulating Chaz and just saying all this stuff just to try to win him over when they go to Ooey Gooey World, and it's clearly a parody of, again, It's a Small World. And it's just so sweet, though, how Kira, since she is her assistant, how with Kira, like, she's the one who's really, like, hitting it off with Chaz. And even when she's introduced, when she meets them all, the first thing she does is she crouches down to Chucky and says, oh, hi, Chucky, I love your teddy bear. It's so cute. Like, aw. So, and then how they have, like, they both love that poem, Children Are My Life. And just already see the connection, really, with Kira and Chaz. So that's so sweet. But then with Coco just taking the credit, just trying to fool Chaz. So, like, what was her end game? Was she really, like, I understand she was going to marry him, but then what? Were they going to live in Paris? Like, what was she going to do? She was really going to, like, put up the facade for the rest of her life of these two just to get a promotion, or was she gonna like eventually dump him? You know, like it's just bizarre to me. I don't know. And also even with with Kira, how she just has that natural chemistry with Chaz and with the babies, how she's just so loving and kind and sweet. And also with Kimmy, how she just fits in with the babies right away too. And she's just like excited and just like, sure, I could take you to see the princess, that princess on the float. And Kira, when they are at that amusement park and Kira tells them that story about the princess, and she's just, it's just so sweet. And a cute thing with Kimmy, like when she just takes Chucky's hand, they just like go up to the window to look outside when they're at that restaurant, which again, it's Japanese, so it's just like they're eating sushi. And that part's so bizarre with the sumo wrestler singing karaoke. But a cute moment, though, is that when Angelica gets up to sing and she's just singing with them, and then you just see Charlotte and Drew looking out, like, then they look at each other like they're the proud parents of like, oh, look at our daughter, she's a star. I found that cute. And I had totally forgotten, though, some random song, speaking of, like, songs and her singing. The song when they are getting ready to, like, board the plane, they get their passports, pictures taken, and, like, they're singing. I totally forgot about that random song. Like, Tommy singing, like, oh, we're gonna go to Paris, whatever. I don't even, like, it's just a random thing I've forgotten. And so I remember, like, the distinct thing was with the soundtrack, like, the song. So this is a very 2000s song, that Aaron Carter song, that Life is a Party, when they escape. And, of course, they escape when they're in ooey gooey worlds, the ride, and then they just are going to, wreaking havoc now in Paris. And they go to find the princess, that animatronic princess. Chucky wants that to be his new mommy. And the whole subplot it's just random too, that subplot with Spike, because like they don't notice that Spike is gone this whole time, but whatever. So Spike just out on his own when he meets then the French poodle Fifi. And so I remember, then the song, of course, with that is Who Let the Dogs Out by Baha Men. And if ever there was a song that takes me straight back to the year 2000, it is that one. And so then this sent me down a bit of a rabbit hole. So first and foremost, as we all know, the music video with that song was huge. It won a Grammy, but the music video with that song is with the dogs, like the actual dogs running free, and then the security guard at the beginning saying, who let the dogs out? So then it's the song. And then at the end, though, then you see the dog winking. So in that music video, it's that dog that let them out, the security guard's dog, I guess. Okay, so that's the mystery solved. There you go. But what's also, okay, so first of all, with the lyrics of that song, then years later, what I learned about the song, if you recall VH1's I Love then each decade, so 70s, 80s, 90s, then they did 2000s. So they talked about this song, of course, for the year 2000. And then they were all saying how, oh, that song's really about saying, like, being at the club and men calling, like, seeing all these unattractive women and saying, who let the dogs out? Like, these women are dogs. But actually, that's not what the song is about at all. 20 years later, this is like a big revelation to me, so I hope you're following along with me. So, in fact, I looked up the lyrics, and then I just did some research on the song, and it's actually, what it's about is, if anything, it's the other way around, where it's actually more so men bashing the song, because it's about men catcalling women, and then the women calling them dogs. So that's what it really is about, the song, because the lyrics are, the party was nice, the party was pumping, and everybody having a ball. And tell the fellas, stop the name calling. Then them girls respond to the call. I hear a woman shout out, who let the dogs out? So there you go. And another interesting thing I learned about this song is that, in fact, the Baha Men version of it is not the original version. I just learned this year. I hope this is interesting to you, because I find this interesting. It's originally a song from 1998 by Anselm Douglas, titled Doggy. So if you never heard it before, I'm going to go ahead and play it for you now. So, I'll go ahead and do you the trouble and play you the song. So first, allow me to refresh your memory about the 2000 hits, that is Who Let the Dogs Out by Baha Men.
Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
Well, the party was nice, the party was pumping.
Hey, yeah.
And everybody having a ball.
Hey, hey.
And start the name calling. And the girls respond to the call. I hear a poor one shout out.
Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
I see the dance people had a ball cause she Billy Fountains get out. Get back, Gruffy, bash Gruffy, get back, you flea infested mongrel.
That song is still a banger. I don't care what anyone said. Just a fun song. It just is. So now here is the original version of the song.
Hey, ladies, take charge of this one. Are you run things? I'm leaving you in charge. Hear this, hear this. The party was nice, the party was pumping. Hey, yippee-yi-yo, and everybody having a ball. Yeah, man, yippee-yi-yo, until a man start the name calling. Oh, yeah, yippee-yi-yo. Then a girl respond to the call. I hear a woman shout out, who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? That's how in the dance, and a boy called me Billy Bug and Skettle. Get back, Fluffy, mash Fluffy, get back, you flea infested mongrel. Who let the dogs out?
So there you go. Mystery solved about who let the dogs out. So I hope you enjoyed that tangent about that song. Anyway, back to Rugrats in Paris. So again, I love the heartfelt stuff, and I love the scene with Tommy and Chucky, and with Chucky saying, Tommy, how can I learn to be brave like you and my daddy and Reptar? And then Tommy just kind of like half asleep saying, well, maybe you can think about stuff that doesn't, like, think about something else. And then Chucky says well, every time I do that, I think about something that scares me even more. And then he says, well, you should think about good stuff. And then he says, oh yeah, like having a new mommy. And then like Tommy's already asleep and he just says, yeah, like he's already turned away, falling asleep. And then poor Chucky. So then he has that dream, and that's that whole sequence with Here Comes Chucky Chan. That to me just feels so, like, it's cool sequence, I guess. It just feels so, like, I don't know what the point of it is. It doesn't really, it's just like kind of random to me. But that whole song is sung by Isaac Hayes. Rest in peace, Isaac Hayes, of course. You know, everyone knows that song theme from Shaft. That's his, like, main hit everyone knows. But also he was the voice of Chef on South Park. So then when they go see the show, and that's so funny with Stu too, when he has to go fix Reptar, the robot Reptar, and he says, I use paper clips and rubber bands for a reason. Like, goodness. So when Angelica was saying, like when she's talking to Coco, and then she says so even if he doesn't marry, Mr. Chucky said, doesn't marry you, I'll still get my flow, right? And then she's saying, well, why do you ask? And then Coco's so, like, the one funny thing with Coco is that she just, like, hates us, so hysterical. She can't even mask her disgust with kids as much as she's trying. Like, when she's holding Dylan, she says, hello, you are not horrible. Like, ugh, God. That's kind of a compliment, though. So, anyway, when she says, Angelica says, because Chucky wants, like, the Finster kid wants a princess to be his mommy. And let's face it, lady, you're no princess. You gotta admire Angelica for her candor with adults, like, just telling it like it is. So then she just, when that woman is singing, that's a lovely song too, was singing about Reptar, and like that's cute too, and then how Reptar is like seeing the goodness in Reptar, like it's cute, and then when she just takes over the role and she's singing, and then Chucky, thinking it's the princess, goes up to her to give her his teddy bear Wawa, and Chaz is like, oh wow, he's sharing Wawa, and then he just like can't believe it's her. And then they're like, that lady is the princess? There's no way. Like, oh. And poor Chaz just, like, falls for it. But then that part when she gives him, the day before when she had given him a golden inhaler, asthma inhaler, and it's like, Chad, you take my breath away. And he's like, oh, wow. And he's like, Chad. Oh, my goodness. So then they're quick to just decide they're going to get married. And then even Dee Dee's like, Chaz, are you sure you want to just jump into this? Like, marriage is a big step. And Betty is just saying how, why not? Like, it's like so silly. And I like the part with the Rugrats, like with the babies, then when Angelica confesses to them what she did. And then Tommy says, like, that's one of the worst things you've ever done, Angelica. Like, one of the worst? I guess he's right. Like, there's been other bad things she's done. But, And then she's like, then she says, like, I know it was bad, even for me. Like, she's genuinely apologetic. So what I will say about Angelica, honestly, truly, is that how bad she is, she truly would never let anything bad happen to the babies. Like, deep, deep down, she cares for them. She loves her cousins. Honestly, I think an underrated, like, relationship on this show, too, is between Angelica and Dill. Like, pipe down drooly, and then him just yucky, and, like, I don't know. I just think that's an underrated cousin relationship, because, of course, we got Tommy and Angelica, but, so that's just another thing that stood out to me rewatching this. So then that whole chase sequence, which is insane. I mean, these babies take over the robot Reptar. So then it's like the whole Godzilla thing, and then the evil robo-snail. And so that's when then they find Kimmy again. And then there's that part and it's like, this isn't the ride I wanted. Like Angelica, when they're carrying Angelica, and then I love the part when she's running out and then Lil says, we forgot Angelica, and Phil says, you say that like it's a bad thing. His little like comments about Angelica, it's so funny. And also when Angelica goes airborne, which she does in the first Rugrats movie too, and then they're saying, look up in the sky, it's a nerd, it's a pain, it's Angelica. And you got hints of Kimmy already. It's like, it's like Adam's. Then she's like, get away, Pipsqueak. Let me do this. So that guy would have, like, killed these babies. John Clyde, I don't understand. Because, like, when he's spinning around the robot Reptar and then they climb up the Eiffel Tower, it's just, like, insanity. And, like, how all this destruction they cause. How did that just go unscathed? Like, okay, and then it's like, okay, let's just move on out to the church. Like, it's just bizarre, like, all this destruction in Paris, but whatever. So, then when they go to stop the wedding, that's when Chucky says his first word, no! Like, I love that. And then it's just so sweet at the end. Like, well, first with Coco, and then when she's just saying, like, with Mr. Yamaguchi there, and then he's saying, you are dismissed. And then she, like, they rip her trains, and, like, she's just, like, in her underwear. And then everyone's taking pictures. Like, God, so weird. Angelica's so funny that when she's like, well, okay, I'm not going to tell this story again. So Mr. Yummy Sushi, like, saying everything with what happened. And she had her, like, a heart in a jar or whatever, like, all this stuff when she's explaining it again. And there's also that sweet line from Angelica that I love when she says to Coco LaBouche, hey lady, no one messes with my dumb babies except me. So that kind of just sums it up, that they're her dumb babies, only she's allowed to mess with them. So that just shows that, she loves them. It's cute. I love that line. Then it's so sweet with Kira when she's saying, I'm sorry, Chaz, I wanted to tell you. And then he says the line from the poem, oh, how my heart beats wild. Or she says it, then he says, each time I hold my precious child. And then he says, wait, you love that poem too? And she says, it is my favorite. And they just have that smile. And it's so sweet, like the four of them, like they're already a little family with Chaz, Chucky, Kira, and Kimmy. So then sometime later, and then now it's their wedding. So sweet. And then we have Chucky now as the Bob father. So I like how that comes full circle too. And it's just so sweet, Kira dancing with Chucky. That's just so heartwarming. And Chaz dancing with Kimmy. Oh my God, so beautiful. And she's like, Chucky, would you like to dance with your new mommy? And they're hugging and smiling. Oh my God, it's just so sweet and touching. It really is. I love it. It's so adorable. It's just perfect. So it's just beautiful. And then with them throwing the cake, it's like, well, Tommy, I guess this is how life is going to be for us from now on. It's just so cute. I'm smiling. I love Rugrats so much. It's just such a special show to me. It's beautiful. I love these characters. And it's such a fun, cute movie, even with all the gross stuff in it. It's great. And Chucky knowing he has to be brave. Like, I got to be brave. And it's just so cute. Like, you always say, Tommy, a baby's got to do what a baby's got to do. So I just love it. And one more thing I want to mention about Rugrats is that officially the Rugrats Revival series is coming next year in 2021. I'm excited for it. I'm going to check it out. And here's hoping it does well and that it just brings on a whole new generation of fans because the Rugrats are amazing. So I have high hopes for it. We'll see. And with that is going to conclude this week's episode of Storytelling Saga. You can follow the podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Be sure to check out storytellingsaga.com and feel free to send me any questions, comments, or writing prompts by sending me an email at storytellingsaga@gmail.com. Next week, I'll be doing another character study on the podcast. This time, I will be doing a character study of Miriam Pataki. Until then, thank you for listening, and remember, write what you love.
I want a mom to take my hand and make me feel like a holiday. A mom to tuck me in at night and chase the monster